My word, have we had a lot of racing over the last week. Coming up on the Racing News Show today, La Vuelta continue with a second week that hasn't told us a huge amount about what the final outcome might be. Remco Evenepoel is back to his old tricks, i.e. riding everybody off his wheel. We have a big upset at the Bretagne Classic in France, some grimy conditions at the Deutschland and Simac Ladies Tour, and history being made at the Mountain Bike World Champs. Let's start though with La Vuelta. Now if you look at the gaps between Roglic and his main rivals, there isn't a huge difference over the first rest day 1 week ago. That's a good thing though, as it means there's still plenty to fight for over the remaining 6 stages. Now the major change last week came at the top of the table, with Jumbo-Visma content to let a break go up the road on stage 10, containing 2 riders that would leapfrog Roglic. Odd Christian Eiking and Guillaume Martin sat in first and second on GC since that day, won by Michael Storer, but Roglic, whilst happy to give the red jersey away, was also intent on taking time on his main rivals, which was going very well, until this.
Let's have a look. Leans in. Let's see. Whoa, there it goes.
Roglic pushing things a little too far in an effort to land another blow to his rivals. Now, thankfully for him, he wasn't badly hurt and would gain time on his Ineos rivals, even if he didn't on Mas and Lopez. The Movistar duo have looked really threatening over the second week of the race. Mas took it to Roglic on the steep slopes to Valdepeñas to Jaén, a climb I didn't think would suit the Spaniard, and that bodes very well for what is still to come. Roglic did win the stage though, upsetting Magnus Cort Nielsen in doing so. The Dane had been away in the break all day, only to be caught within sight of the line. Amazingly though, he came back all guns blazing just a day later. A reduced bunt sprint would decide the stage to Cordoba, with Cort Nielsen delivered to the line brilliantly by Jens Kerkelera and taking his second stage victory of the race, in circumstances that couldn't have been much different to the first one. He has got incredible form right now, and that win actually puts him equal with Bjarne Riis for most Grand Tour stage win for a Danish rider. Now, one of the most interesting stories of the second week came on stage 13. The Koenig Quick-Step's lead-out train went so fast that it dropped its own sprinter, Fabio Jakobsen. It didn't matter though, as Florian Sénéchal took up the reins, out-sprinting Matteo Trentin to take his first World Tour level win. Now, I think most of us thought that Jakobsen had had some sort of mechanical problem that day, but it turned out not to be the case. This was his reaction when greeting Sénéchal at the finish.
Congrats, Mott, but if you don't look behind, you are not lead out.
Yeah, but I asked you guys, wait. Yeah. But we are in front and we wait after a corner, huh?
No, because we have a gap and it's been now Fitco, I'm behind.
Yeah.
But congrats, and then I say new sprinter.
Yeah.
But if they go too fast?
No, you go slow after corner.
You're not a lead-out rider if you don't look behind. I was surprised by that reaction because not only is Sénéchal a close teammate, he's also a close friend off the bike who was first on the scene after Jakobsen's horrendous crash in Poland last year and credited by Jakobsen's family for saving his life. It goes to show you though the mindset of Jakobsen, and I guess you have to have that attitude as a sprinter, a discipline within cycling which is not for the faint-hearted or weak-headed. Having had some time to process everything though, Jakobsen had a change of heart the following day, conveying in interviews how pleased he was for his teammate. And I think we were all really pleased for Sénéchal. He's an incredibly strong rider who doesn't get many of his own opportunities. And he also seems like an incredibly nice guy off the bike. According to the Inner Ring on Twitter, Sénéchal offered to pay half of Loic Chateau's wages when he heard he was out of contract with Cofidis. It didn't work out in the end, as Sam Bennett got the final spot on that team, but it worked out for us, as Loic is now a presenter on GCN en Français. Anyway, back to La Vuelta, and stage 14 looked to be a potentially incredible story for Jay Vine. The Australian is riding his first Grand Tour, having been signed to Alpecin Fenix after winning the Zwift Academy last year, and it turns out he's not just good at virtual racing, he's a bloody good cyclist full stop. However, his dreams were shattered when this incident occurred with his team car.
Hand over, too close to the vehicle. Whoa. That was horrible.
Now, I don't think I was alone in thinking that was the end of Vine's Vuelta, let alone stage win challenge. Not so though. He got back on his bike, got back to the break, and was duking it out with some of the best climbers in the world for stage victory. Ultimately, he would finish third on the stage, but I think we can safely say it won't be long before Vine wins, and wins big. He is the real deal. as is Romain Bardet. It was the Frenchman who won that stage, taking the KOM jersey in the process. Now, having fallen out of the GC due to a crash in the opening week, he and the rest of Team DSM have been focused on stage wins, and very successful they've been at that too. That was their third win in the space of just 8 stages. Great to see Bardet back to his winning ways too. He and the rest of the team have really found their feet, I would say, in the second half of the 2021 season. And talking about finding your feet, what about Rafał Majka yesterday? Wow, 87 kilometre solo escapades don't come along too often, but it did for Rafał Majka yesterday. After dropping Van Giels and later Fabio Aru, he was never to be seen again, taking his first win in almost 4 years and dedicating it to his late father in an emotional post-stage interview.
I don't wait for nobody today. I wanted to win the stage today. Especially I want to win for my father. For my father, for my 2 kids. I'm so happy.
You just never know what riders have going on in their personal lives that might be affecting them in their working lives. We're very quick to judge riders if they're not performing as you would expect. But Majka and Dylan Teuns before him at the Tour de France this year are a case in point that we shouldn't be quite so quick to judge, perhaps. So, going into the final week of La Vuelta, odd Christian Eiking still holds on to the race lead, with Guillaume Martin just under a minute behind. Primož Roglic is in third and will be hoping his loan of the red jersey will eventually be paid back. Mas and Lopez, though, are poised to try and take it themselves. And it's still not over for Bernal, Yates or even Jack Hay. Here's hoping we get the action we're all hoping for over the final 6 stages of the race. Meanwhile, in France, we had the Bretagne Classic, previously known as the Grand Prix Plouay. It's like a World Championships, basically, and in fact, it was the venue for the UCI Worlds back in the year 2000. It's a long race over lumpy laps and around 250 kilometres, and a prestigious race in its own right, also serving as a good test for the World Championships, which this year take place in Flanders in just under 4 weeks' time. Now, it's a race that is sometimes decided in a sprint, sometimes from an attack, and this year it was the latter. Today, Pogačar was making his return to competition after a break since the Olympics and was looking very good. He got himself into a move with Julian Alaphilippe, Mikel Honoré and Benoit Cosnefroy. They were hunting down Demarchi and Hermans at the head of the race. 200 k's in though, and the lights went out for the Tour de France champion.
It looked as though that was after the peloton had passed through.
Gone.
That's it. Wow, he is human. He is human after all. Today, Pogačar is dropped.
So, Pogačar, as Rob Hatch just said in commentary, is human after all. I'm sure, though, that we haven't seen the last of him this season. The power is there, just not the endurance. That will come. Now, his 3 breakaway companions would catch and pass the leading duo and end up duking it out for the win on the day. Honoré worked tirelessly for Alaphilippe, setting him up for this sprint to the line.
Cosnefroy looking for a first World Tour race behind. Honoré is done. They're chasing on behind. Cosnefroy launches it, and here comes Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe around him. Alaphilippe on the left-hand side, but Cosnefroy's holding. Cosnefroy has it. He's done it. He's upset the world champion. What a way to take your first World Tour win. And Benoit Cosnefroy wins the Bretagne Classic.
That didn't go to plan for De Koning Quick-Step, did it? In a major upset, Benoit Cosnefroy outsprinted the world champion to the line, taking his first ever World Tour level win in the process. De Koning Quick-Step must be wondering why they didn't use their numbers differently. But hindsight is a wonderful thing, and why wouldn't you back Alaphilippe in a 2-up sprint to the line? Now, presumably, Cosnefroy will be working for Alaphilippe as he sets out to defend his rainbow bands in a few weeks' time. But given his form and the parcours in Flanders, he could go well deep into the race himself, I would say. Now, in Germany, at the Deutschland Tour, we had 4 days of racing under some fairly grim weather conditions. The first 2 stages would end up in a bunt sprint. Pascal Ackermann taking his biggest win of the season in his home race on the first of those, edging out the Bahrain victorious duo of Phil Bauhaus and Marco Haller. Alexander Kristoff, though, proved that he's not a fading force just yet. He won the following day into Ilmenau and would back that up by winning again on the 4th and final stage into Nürnberg, coming off the wheel of Ackermann in the sprint to the line. The general classification, though, was effectively decided on stage 3. There, a group prized itself clear over the top of the final climb of the day, with Nils Pollitt attacking that group with 7 k's to go and taking Dylan Teuns with him. Now, we know only too well the power of the big German from his recent Tour de France exploits, and Teuns experienced that firsthand as he watched Pollitt ride into the distance with 2.5 Ks remaining. There was no bringing him back, not for Teuns nor the bunch, Pollitt taking the stage victory, and with that, what would turn out to be an unassailable lead in the general classification. With that stage and overall win last week, he has also doubled his career tally of victories. And I still find it quite remarkable to think that he's only had one pro win before that stage of the Tour de France this year. Seems like he's found his legs though, and his confidence over the last couple of months, so I dare say it won't be long until we see him raise his arms in victory again. Up in the Netherlands, it was the next round of the Women's World Tour, the CIMAC Ladies Tour. We had a number of very impressive performances there, not least from Marianne Vos, who won half of the 6 stages. She got herself off the mark in the prologue, and her second win would come on stage 4. The first women's Paris-Roubaix is not for a few weeks, but the peloton looked like they'd ridden over some wet cobbles in northern France by the end of that stage. It was truly epic. And who else would win a grimy, epic day but Marianne Vos?
Vos can see the finish line ahead of her. Marianne Vos looks back. We said it was a perfect finish for the Jumbo-Visma rider. Glances back. Another kick by Marianne Vos. He's going to take a second stage victory here of the Holland Ladies Tour. Vos takes the stage.
She really is the cannibal, isn't she? And just to cement that fact, she went and did the same thing on the 5th and final stage, which wasn't quite as dirty, but equally as wet. Vos didn't have it all her own way though. She lost the leader's jersey on the first road stage, where Alison Jackson outwitted and outpowered the bunch and her breakaway companion Mayela Grostet to take what was the very popular win and her first win in over 2 years. Marlon Russa dominated the Stage 2 individual time trial, taking the race lead in the process, and such was her margin of victory that she held on to it the following day despite being involved in this huge crash.
Oh, and a big crash.
Crash at the front, big crash at the front.
Big crash.
Dreadful crash at the front. And a lot of riders have gone down here.
Ouch. That incident left a select group out front, with SD Works making up 4 of the 6 riders and Lonneke Uneken finishing off for them with the stage win. And that was the 3rd big win of the season for the 21-year-old. I would say she's a star of the future, but to be honest, I think she's a star of the present. It was her more experienced teammate, though, who would win the GC. In finishing 3rd behind Vos and Nubia Doma on stage 3, Chantal van den Broek-Black went into the race lead, which she and her teammate successfully defended on the 5th and final stage. Watch out for her at the upcoming World Championships and Paris-Roubaix. Let's move on now to Remco Evenepoel's exploits. On Thursday at the Druvenkoers Overijse, he attacked a select front group with over 60 Ks to go, never to be seen again. And he was at it again on Saturday at the Brussels Cycling Classic. Now, it's a race that traditionally finishes with a bunch sprint of sorts, and looking back through the history books, the last time it didn't, I think, was all the way back in 2004, when Nick Noyens won from a small group. However, if you are Remco Evenepoel, you don't wait around for bunch sprints. He attacked his breakaway companion Aimé de Ghent with 11 kilometres to go, distancing his rival and soloing to the victory again. And he must be licking his lips at the prospect of the home World Championships coming up in Belgium later on this season. However, in a lengthy interview with Wielerflits last week, Wout van Aert has said that he's likely to be the sole team leader for the home nation, with Evenepoel, amongst others, playing a support role. I'm already looking forward to seeing how that might pan out, particularly if Evenepoel manages to win the time trial that week. Meanwhile, off-road, we had the Mountain Bike World Championships in Val di Sole, Italy last week. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth with these, as firstly, we don't have the rights to show the footage worldwide, and secondly, this is more GMBN's domain. However, I will go through the headline performances, and if you're in the right territory, you can catch up with the action on GCN+. Evie Richards made history in the women's XCO, becoming the first ever Brit to win an elite cross-country world championships, whilst in the men's, Nino Schurter made history by winning the title for the 9th time. That guy's incredible. Also showing the young guns that age is not a barrier to success at the highest level was Greg Minnaar. The South African is 39, which is old for any cycling discipline, let alone downhill mountain biking, where you'd expect the young guns to be those with the least fear. Not so. Minnaar's margin of victory over France's Benoit Coulange was a small one, but it didn't need to be any bigger. That gave Minnaar his 3rd World Championships title. In the women's, France went one better, with Miriam Nicole taking her 2nd world title. Christopher Blevins gave American fans plenty to shout about by winning the short track cross country earlier in the week, with Sina Fry taking the women's. Meanwhile, over in Tokyo, the Paralympic cycling events took place last week, and as ever, there were some incredible performances across the board. I'm sure many of you, like me, were watching on in awe at what these athletes are capable of, always inspiring and always humbling. Like the mountain bike world, unfortunately we don't have the rights to show any of the racing though, but I have to give special mention to Dame Sarah Story, who won her 15th Paralympic gold medal in Tokyo. A haul made all the more impressive by the fact they haven't all come in the same discipline. Her first gold medal was back in 1992 in Barcelona in swimming. That makes her Britain's most successful Paralympian of all time. And just before we finish with racing, yes, there was more, Connor Zwift of Arkea Samsic took his first ever general classification win at the Tour Poitou-Charentes last week. He didn't win a stage, but his consistency shone through, which was great to see. Although I am slightly biased, as I met Connor recently when he came in for the World of Cycling, and he's a thoroughly nice chap. Well, it's been a busy week of racing, but the good news is it's almost as busy this coming week. By the time this racing news show comes out, the Grand Prix Plouay, which is the women's version of the Bretagne Classic, will be either on or finished, as will the first stage of the Benelux Tour, featuring Remco Evenepoel, amongst many other stars. On Thursday, we've got the start of the Ceratizit Challenge by La Vuelta, which has been extended to a 4-day event this year. And then on Sunday, the Tour of Britain kicks off. 8 days long, with some big stars on show, including Wout van Aert, Mark Cavendish and Julian Alaphilippe. Sunday also marks the final stage of La Vuelta, which resumes tomorrow for the final 6 stages. A lot to watch then, and it will all be available both live and on demand on GCN Plus, and we'll get as many highlights as we can up for you as well. As ever, territory restrictions do apply, so please check which races are available where you are. Also out this week on GCN Plus, another documentary. This time we're cooking on gas as we follow Michelin-starred chef Alan Murchison, a keen cyclist himself. Now he stepped away from the restaurant trade a few years ago, but now works with elite riders and teams such as Canyon SRAM on their nutrition. Here's a sneak peek.
I'm Alan Murchison. Cycling is one of my 2 great passions in life. The other is food.
Any cake left for me?
I spent the best part of 30 years working in Michelin-star kitchens.
Thank you.
Now, using my passion and knowledge, I help cyclists with their nutritional plans.
Nutrition by itself can be very boring.
It's not just about macronutrients. You're always thinking about flavour first.
And I'm going to show you that what you eat
Get in there,
is just as important as how you train.
Not seen that one yet, but I look forward to watching it. It's out tomorrow. Now, talking of Canyon SRAM, they've been home to the Zwift Academy winners over the last few years, and you will all have heard recently that Jay Vine, who's been so prominent at the Vuelta, was the men's Zwift Academy winner last year. Well, it could be me next, as I'm taking part in the Zwift Academy this year, so it's quite likely I'll be ripping it up at a Grand Tour near you very soon. In all seriousness, my participation, as you can probably guess, is more aimed at seeing how much fitness I can gain as opposed to getting a pro contract. And I would love it if you would join me in the process too. There's still time to sign up, and it doesn't involve a huge time commitment if you don't want it to. And you never know, you might make some serious improvements. We'll put a link in the description below so that you can find out more and indeed sign up if you so wish. And talking of indoor training, we have had Manon and Connor riding on Rouvy over the last couple of weeks, comparing their times with the pros over some of the most testing climbs from La Vuelta. Well, this week, it's Hank's turn. Always a glutton for punishment. Let's see how he got on.
So Manon and Connor have just smashed out some good rides on Rouvy. And if you haven't challenged yourself against them, now's your chance to challenge yourself against me. Yeah, but this stage is one of the hardest. This is, well, the stage up Guadeloupe. Average grading of 6%, max grading of 14. Come on! There you go. I completed it in a time of 48 minutes, 49 seconds. Now, all you Rouvy followers, it's your turn to challenge me. See if you can get sweatier. That I highly doubt. But the race, I think you got it. All the best and good luck, but ultimately, enjoy it. Thanks, Rouvy.
If you would like to sign up to ride La Vuelta climbs on Rouvy, there is a link to that in the description below as well, with all the details that you need. Transfer and retirement news now, and we'll start with the latter. Lucy Kennedy being the first of them, she announced on social media last week that this will be her final season as a pro rider. The 33-year-old has spent the last 4 years with Team Bike Exchange, winning the Herald Sun Tour twice in that time, as well as finishing second at the Tour Down Under back in 2019 and winning the inaugural Women's Classic of San Sebastian that same year. Meanwhile, Kirsten Wild's last race has already been ridden. She finished her long and very successful career on Friday at the CIMAC Ladies Tour. Now, unfortunately, a positive COVID case within her team meant she couldn't do the final 2 stages, but Wild was the dominant sprinter in women's cycling for many years, amassing over 100 wins on the road, many more on the track, and crowning it all off by taking a well-deserved medal at the Olympic Games in Tokyo recently. We wish you both all the best in whatever comes next for you. Things are a little quieter on the transfer front at the moment, but there are a couple to talk about. Trek Segafredo has signed John Aberasturi from Caja Rural on a 2-year deal, and that will be his first time in a World Tour team, having spent the last decade with teams in the 2nd and 3rd division. The team have also acquired the services of talented youngster Marcus Hulgaard from Uno X and Otto Vigada from Alpecin Fenix, who themselves have extended the contract of Jay Vine for a further 2 years. Sprinter Hugo Hofstetter moves to Arkea Samsic next year after a 2-year stint with the Israel startup nation. Jumbo-Visma have confirmed the signing of 2 fast riders, Tosh van der Sande and Christophe Laporte. And finally, Jonas Koch will leave Intermarché Wanty-Gobert to head to Bora Hansgrohe next year. Right, that is all for this week, but I will be back next week to round up another bumper week of racing, so I hope to see you then. Bye for now.